kind of default rate are you typically seeing on land versus a real estate note?
Investment value.
No,
So it-
what's the default rate? What kind of,
Oh,
what's your
default rate.
default? Yeah,
You know, I really I don't know those statistics.
okay.
I would say that if I was guessing that it would probably be 20% more on land, maybe. The reason being is if a person owns a home and then they also own a piece of land somewhere that they're thinking of building a second home on, or if they have a piece of land and they're planning to rent, I mean, they're renting and planning to build a house later. If things kind of go sideways, they're going to probably let that go before they would their home or, their residence.
Right.
And so it's usually a secondary. So I would say the risk would be, 20% on a normal market. In a really bad market, it might be higher.
So I
Kind
know
of
you
like a
mentioned
moving
before about,
target.
I know
Yeah.
you mentioned before about air rights. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like?
I'm not an expert on that. I just know about it. I've never really sold any, but like in or around airports and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've never owned any land close to an airport, so but I know that people do sell those, and it's not just airports. Also, land you can sell signage and cell tower and lease land for that. I know some people have done quite well doing that.
Highways and stuff like that. That's a killer one. Interesting you said that before about the fact of the minerals and timber. In New Jersey, we don't have this whole minerals thing, right? For those people who are not familiar with the minerals in the land being a valuable source, can you explain a little bit more about what that looks like? What minerals are they getting, and what kind of profit can you make from buying land with just minerals on it?
Yeah, I used to subdivide land, and we probably did a few thousand acres. It was mostly rural land that we would find that had a road frontage, a lot of road frontage. We just build or do a plat and then subdivide off to the road, the county road. But usually I would purchase with minerals. I would buy and stipulate that we were purchasing with the minerals. Then when we would sell the lots off, we would sell without the minerals. So we would keep the minerals. And we actually built up about 1,000 acres of mineral rights. And I sold off, probably 80% of those, but we're keeping the ones that are producing, and they're not producing a lot. But they, we get a check for a couple of thousand a month off of those, sometimes more. But to answer your question, the different minerals can be, depending on the state, in Oklahoma and Texas, it's a lot of oil. Arkansas, even in Pennsylvania and different places, gas is a big thing, natural gas. That's the mineral rights that I'm receiving royalties on natural gas. And but coal, there's other minerals out west that I haven't been too involved in, but water rights are another big one. It's huge out west. We bought a piece of land in Santa Clarita, California, and we sold it off, and owner financed it, but we kept just probably a couple of acres because there's supposed to be a huge aquifer under this land. But for some future date, if it does, we'll have a little piece of it maybe.
And can your agent help you determine if there's minerals in the area, or what kind of study do you do to find that out?
Yeah, sometimes you have to do a mineral search, and title companies can do that. If you're only just buying a small tract, I would say that if the deeds within the last 30 years don't have it deeded out to minerals, and they're probably there. And to do a real in-depth mineral search is extremely expensive. On a small lot, it's not worth it. So what we do is, if we buy, we just say we're purchasing with the minerals. And if we sell, we say we are excluding the minerals. And we usually deed those minerals off to another entity, so we can tell the people that we don't own the minerals, so we can't transfer them because that particular entity doesn't own them. They're transferred somewhere else.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so minerals can be a big deal if you're buying land. If you're buying the note, you really unless you get the land back, it's not really an issue, but.
Right.
So we had a question from Ray. Nathan, you said a question?
Yeah, I think we maybe just answered it, but how do you best learn about the mineral rights or water rights or whatever rights there might be? And I think you said you do that through a title company.
Well, usually the seller, if somebody's selling you something, they'll tell you, if there's
Wow.
some value in the water rights, or if there's a lot of mineral rights that go with it. If not, usually the agent might know. If you're just, if you're purchasing it and the seller doesn't mention it, you have a hint that there could be some mineral rights there, then you could go to a title company and have them do a search. And
So Robin Jackson mentioned in the comments that there's things called landmen who in Texas and Oklahoma who can find and
there
own
are,
mineral rights.
that's what they do. Yeah.
Woo-wee.
Don't hear about them as much anymore. They used to be everywhere, but landmen. They call them landmen, and they search for mineral rights and try to lease minerals from people, and so they can drill a well.
Yeah.
So interesting. So
That is
foreign to
cool.
us in New Jersey. So cool though. When you're working with kind of stuff, do you get the idea of what the person, so you're going to get a list of assets from whoever the seller is going to give you. Do you get to know what the borrower's intent is? Is that a formal letter, or is that kind of what they think it's going to do, or how is that presented to you? Because that's important if you want to know if the borrower's intent is to build or to hunt. How do you get that information about what their intent is?
Well, we first, if a note seller calls us wanting to sell the note, we ask them, what are they planning to do? They usually know. And before we close on a note, we typically do an interview with the payer and talk to them, and ask them what they're in. Well, we established that they agree with the balance, and we have a list of, an interview that we do questions. One of the questions is, what are you planning to do with the property? Are you planning on keeping it? One is first, question, and are you happy with it? And so that's, kind of how we establish that.
So make sure I heard you correctly. You say you interview the borrower before you buy it?
Yeah, a lot of companies do an estoppel letter, which can, and estoppels can be good, but I don't like them because we usually do the interview like a day or two before we close. If somebody's got really good credit, you send them a estoppel letter 2 weeks ahead of time, and they say, "Oh, they're selling my note at a discount." So they go to the payer, the seller, and pay them out. They become your best competition. So if we do the interview a day or two before we close, they don't really have time to do that. And it just serves sort of the same purpose as a estoppel, so that later down the road, if the people say, "Hey, I don't agree with the balance, so we on such and such date at 3:22 p.m. we talked to you and you said you agreed with the balance, and we relied upon your word at that time. So what's changed?" Sometimes
what is your first step in your due diligence when you get the asset? What's the first thing you're doing? Are you Google searching it? Are you start pricing what you think the value of the property is? Are you reaching out to an agent? What's your first step in that process of evaluating a land or land?
Yeah, on a land note, the first step is to establish the value of the land. And we usually, if it's an established subdivision, you can get a pretty good idea through Zillow and some of the other. You can look at the tax records, which we're pretty good at looking up tax records. They usually, even if they just have a parcel number, we can usually find them and see what the assessed value is. That's just a rule of thumb. It's not always correct, but gives you an idea. And then once we have that, we can make an offer on the note. And if they accept it, if the offer is not in the ballpark of what the people want to do, then we don't want to spend a lot of time on one that doesn't have much of a chance. If they accept it, then we dig deeper. We do our due diligence then, and we have an agent go look and give us a BPO. We may order a BPO through Clear Capital or one of the national companies, and
sounds so familiar.
We definitely established the values there. So
very interesting. So it's not as different as I thought.
Oh, really?
I think I kind of had it built up in my head that it was a much bigger deal, but I mean, obviously there's some more homework and there's some more things you got to search out. But it's
Yeah,
not that bad.
one of the benefits of a land note is you don't have to worry about insurance and, you know, a structure that could get destroyed or a hurricane
Right.
could hit, or, you know, I mean, they might blow some trees down, but, you know, that's about as bad as it would get. So you have that one less thing to think about, one less moving part.
Sure.
And, you know, if you get it back, you don't have to worry about the people destroying the house, you know, and I've had some real horror stories there with
Mhm.
people cutting holes in the wall, dumping fish in it and then plastering it back, you know. You don't find out about that until
But
about
that
10.
happened in real estate, happened in our world.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the biggest fear I have is selling it, right? If I have to foreclose, Nathan is my borrower, he defaults, I have to foreclose and I have to sell it. My thought is, who the hell buys it, right? What kind of time frame have you run into where, what's the longest time frame it took you to, if you took something back to sell that land?